If you want to have the perfect start possible in Code Vein 2, you are in the right place. As your fellow hunter who spent 100 hours in the game and wasted a lot of hours making mistakes, I will be giving 24 tips that will save you a lot of time and guesswork and help you avoid the common traps in the game. Like for example, making a habit of going back and forth between the past and present timeline to avoid delaying important side quests. Side quests in Code Vein 2 heavily affects your progression since they can reward you with new variants of blood codes, new weapons, skills, and more, or even gives you chance to alter the course of the main story, which is critical in getting all of the endings in this game. Some story-changing side quests can only be done in the past or in the present timeline, and most of them will only trigger if you visit a certain timeline after certain points in the game. There were side quests that I wish I had completed sooner to have a much more coherent story or events in the game. So always check both timelines for available quests every time you complete a story arc or beat a major boss in the game. Items such as Breath of the Master, Finesse, or Titan can give you weapon stat bonuses. Like Breath of Master gives your weapon strength and dexterity bonuses, while Breath of Titan gives strength on the other hand. While the same thing applies to Rune Leaves, as these items alter the resistances of your defensive forme instead. Breath items are your whetstones when changing the affinity of your weapons, but the main difference is, breath items are quite limited, especially in early game, which is a quiet letdown. These items are so limited in the late game, so whatever happens, use them only on the weapons that you will be using for a long time or on your main weapons in this game. In the course of my 100 hours of playtime, I've only used one Breath of Master on my main katana, and you can totally see the limited number of my breath and rune leaf items in my inventory, and this after completing and finding almost 95% of items in the game. And I know a lot of us here loves to create our own characters and make the best protagonists out there. But some of you may overspend their time thinking that your appearances and set of clothes can't be changed later on. But the good thing is, it's not the case. You can always change your appearances and clothes in Magmel's dressing area, which is near the hot springs location in Magmel, by using one of the mirrors here. Level grinding in this game is completely optional, and sometimes it feels like it's needed, especially if you are up against multiple boss enemies. As a Soulsborne player and purposely avoiding the partner system or the summoning system, I managed to beat every side and major bosses in this game during my 100 hours of playtime without grinding once. I completed the game with a level 80 character during my first playthrough. But I know very well that the followers of this channel really loves to grind and be overpowered early, so I made a separate playthrough and covered the best spots in the game. And I already prepared 2 leveling guides that you can access right now at the very start of the game. Links are in the description as always, and happy farming. Recipe or food buffs in JRPGs provides helpful temporary augments to your character, like additional damage boosts and so on, which can sometimes saves you from not so good situations and sometimes even determine the outcome of hard fights. And the primary way of getting food items is from synthesis feature, where you cannot just make more food for your needs, but the synthesis feature will allow you to craft helpful consumables that you can use in a handful of situations, like getting rid of nasty status ailments. While I don't consume food items that much, I always find myself using the Windfall Stimulant, an item that will give the user an additional item drop chance, and this is obviously helpful when hunting specific enemy weapons in the game. Defeating enemies will give you different types of raw materials, which I call monster materials. Since you will be killing hundreds of enemies in this game, your raw materials will simply piles up over time. Whatever happens, don't ever sell your excess materials since they can be used in extracting or crafting boosters. I will dive into boosters more later on, and basically they are your accessories in this game that will give you helpful passives to improve your builds. Code Vein 2 system can be overwhelming, especially in the early parts of the game, and you do have a lot to consider here, such as your main character stats, partner traits, boosters, and overburden effects, and so on. But the devs did a great job of giving new players a helpful tooltip feature that you can access by heading to your stats menu and by pressing the R2 button on a PlayStation controller. The tooltip will explain clearly what each of the stats does and show you the benefits of overburden stats, which I will also dive into later on. The tooltip feature is a lifesaver, and I remember spending hours just to learn and studying what each of the key stats affects your characters. And if you're getting value so far, subscribe to the channel. Liking the video and engaging in the comments helps me more than you can imagine, or consider supporting us on Patreon or by becoming a channel member today. And I appreciate your support. Moving on to my exploration tips, and regional pathos is hands down one of the things that you should pay attention to when exploring the world of Code Vein 2. You can easily track these pathos since their locations is visible on the map. Regional pathos or altars are scattered across the map will allow you to activate more great passive effects or add to your builds. Like for example, a pathos here that will give you higher drop chance, increasing the item drop percentage and so on when you kill enemies, to the point that regional pathos can increase your raw stats in the game or increase your overall damage. There are a handful of pathos effects in the world that are exclusive to a certain region, but some pathos effects can linger wherever you are, which is insane, so be sure to hunt them whenever you can. Whenever you are out in the field, make sure that no stone is left unturned since you need to track down all of Yadwiga's minions in each region. Yadwiga's minions not only sells weapons, but they also sell a lot of skills, and some of them are the best in the game. Make sure to buy all of the weapons and skills from them, and whenever a customer token is available, get these tokens by all means. If you played Elden Ring, customer tokens are your bell bearings in this game. Getting more customer tokens will unlock Crimson and Tender Lightstone and Heart Remnants as well. These are basically your raw materials when upgrading your weapons, Bequeathed Forme, and Jails. For example, if I will buy the exclusive customer token 02 from a minion, it will unlock the Tender Light 2 upgrade material for purchase in Yadwiga's shop in Magmel. I find the overall dungeon map not effective when navigating multi-level dungeons. You will see each level stacks on top of each other, and there is no way for you to see and access a certain level of a specific dungeon. Although I don't mind having a map since Soulsborne players are used to playing without it, but I can totally see that this may annoy new players in the game. But the good thing is, the footprints tracking feature can save new players on the fly. This feature tracks your footsteps whenever you access it by pressing the R1 plus R3 button on a PlayStation controller, and actually shows you your footsteps on the screen to determine if you've been on a certain section of a dungeon already instead of relying solely on your memory. Map jammers works pretty straightforwardly in this game, where the player needs to destroy them to reveal parts of the overworld. But in dungeons, the map jammer works the same as in the overworld. The neat trick here is that some of the early dungeons already show the map jammers in an unreachable area. What you can do here is to use your longbow forme and snipe the map jammer to reveal the map early. Golden nectars and golden blood beads are your main raw materials when improving your healing item or regeneration. The golden nectar can increase the number of your regeneration charges, while the blood bead increases the healing potency of each charge. In a specific region, you can track a golden nectar by looking for the blue icon on the map, which is an indication of a golden nectar. While if you went into the location and you can't find the nectar, chances are it is underground. While golden blood beads or the cat-like figure can be obtained from Tower of Generations, which can easily be spotted on the map because of its Gothic architectural design. It is also shown as a hexagonal structure with a golden outline in your map. Tender and Crimson stones are pretty rare, especially in the early parts of the game, so I highly suggest limiting your weapon upgrades and not spreading them too much. When you start the game, don't upgrade any weapons yet, but explore what each weapon can provide to the table or which one will match your playstyle. After learning which weapon and build type you want to focus on, upgrade that weapon with all of your resources. In this way, you will be getting the most out of your weapon's damage instead of having many weapons with scattered upgrades, leading to poor damage in general. As previously mentioned, buying customer tokens will unlock Crimson Stones for you to buy. When that happens, that's the time you are welcome to experiment with the type of weapons at your leisure. Each weapon has 4 skill slots that you can customize to have 4 unique types of skills, such as combat forme, offensive support or buffs, and so on. And you will see that each weapon has weapon forma builds that increases every time you slot in a skill. Weapon forma builds revolves around reliability, handling, conversion, and conductivity. Then you will ask yourself, what the hell is a weapon forma build? To give you a simple answer, these are just your loadout costs to stop the confusion right here and right now. Like for example here, I'm trying to use the adrenaline buff with a cost of 3 conversion along with the somatic zeal with a cost of 4 conversion. So it would not be possible since the total conversion of adrenaline and the somatic zeal combined will be 7. And my current weapon can only have 5 maximum conversion limit. Partners in this game not only behave differently in combat, but each of them has different kinds of playstyles that have advantages and disadvantages. But the thing that you need to focus on is partner traits that can also affect your builds drastically. Partners gain more passive traits over time, so choose wisely which partner is really fit to improve your builds. So even traditional Soulsborne players like me who don't want to summon any party member in combat will still benefit from the partner system by just adding more traits on your build. There is no traditional character stat allocation, and blood codes are one of the determining factors of a build. Each blood code gives you a specific set of stats, so obviously if you are planning to create a dexterity build for example, your best choice are blood codes that can give you high dexterity stat. Each blood code provides specific traits as well, which you need to pay attention to. Traits can improve your builds drastically or help you achieve the specific playstyle that you are aiming for. You can get more blood codes by progressing through the story or by exploring alternate story paths to meet new revenants along the way. Since we are talking about blood codes, it is highly suggested that you should max out the proficiency of each blood code so you can get the upgraded version of the said code when it is equipped on your character after killing enemies. It may be easy to think that, hey man, I don't need this strength type blood code since I do have a dexterity build, which is a huge no-no. The NPC Lavinia will give you a side quest where she will reward you with a corresponding booster depending on which blood code you mastered. And if you can remember, boosters are your accessories in this game that can affect your builds drastically as well. And not to mention that a lot of the best boosters in the game comes from this blood code mastering quest or from the Lavinia's quest. An easy way to max out every blood code in the game is by equipping when you are exploring a non-taxing or difficult dungeon or while doing general exploration. If a blood code already reached its max proficiency, talk to the revenant you got the code from or rest in the missile to get the upgraded one. Last thing about blood codes is that each of the code's proficiency meter is tied to your main story progress. If a blood code stops from getting proficiency, this only means that it is waiting for a certain point in the game to pass before it gets proficiency points again. You already know that boosters are your accessories in this game, but don't just equip them mindlessly, because if you do so, you will just be wasting your precious booster slots, since each trait or passive that a booster provides has conditions for it to take effect. Like for example here, the one-handed sword mastery requires no overburden effect before the additional attack boost kicks in. If you have at least one overburden stat, like for example your strength or dexterity, say goodbye to your one-handed sword mastery effect. But some booster traits do not require any conditions for them to take effect, and they are simply stated in the menu. The overburden mechanic needs to be discussed in a different video because of its specifics, but for now, just treat it as your overall character weight, which increases depending on how much loadout you have. The best early weapons, forme, skills, and more jails are better to be discussed in a different video. But for now, it is your priority to get the Bat Jail, as it is one of the earliest jails in the game and also the best there is. Not only you can easily use the Bat Jail anytime you need Ichor points or your skill points in this game because of its good range, but the summoned bats linger on the target as well and drain Ichor from enemies with a specific interval. All of the other jails are great as well, but the Bat is hands down one of the best in the game. You can get the Bat Jail by just visiting the Confluence or Loose Time Space after progressing through the first main events in Magmel Island. Moving on to my actual combat tips, and right out of the gate, you need to change your understanding about how the bleeding factor works in this game. If you are a seasoned Soulsborne player, you may think that bleed will proc hemorrhage on a target, dealing a sudden burst of damage. In Code Vein 2, the bleed meter determines the amount of Ichor points that you will absorb on each drain attack you perform. The higher the bleed meter, the more Ichor points you will absorb. And of course, the lower the meter, the less Ichor points you drain from enemies. Normal attacks are the fastest way to increase the bleed build-up meter compared to skills. And just in case you are wondering why you can't see the bleed meter on your end, you need to craft the bleed tracker booster in Magmel's crafting shop and equip the accessory on your character. Buff stacking in this game is a huge game changer and can help you streamline a lot of fights, even boss fights. Like for example, the Sacrificial Edge, which is one of the best damage boosting buffs in the game in exchange for HP being drained, paired with a range impact skill that boosts the damage of bayonets in general. So your bayonet combat forme or skills will hit an absolute freight train if you use them. Useful when bursting down bosses or when doing farming runs. Elite enemies and bosses undergo a rage phase when their HP is being lowered to a certain threshold, and this phase is called Bloodthirst mode. During the Bloodthirst animation or the Screaming like animation, hitting enemies with skill is useless since the enemy's damage mitigation at this point is so high that your damage hits like a wet noodle. Instead of hitting the enemy with skills during the Bloodthirst animation, the best strategy here is instead use drain attacks during this window time, so you can get and stack up more Ichor points in the process. So by the time the animation ends, you have already accumulated Ichor points for your skill usage to burst the target down. Your partners can revive you even while assimilating them or when playing in solo. Once your HP reaches 0, the revive will automatically take effect and will undergo a cooldown. What you can do here is wait for the cooldown to expire and purposely disengage from the boss and maintain your distance until the cooldown expires before approaching the boss again. Keep in mind that the revive cooldown increases every time you die, so make use of this trick to the full, especially if you are still adjusting to the game's combat. You can clear the game entirely solo without summoning your partner if you are into a traditional Soulsborne experience. You might think that this game is only intended to be played with a partner because you will be forced to fight a handful of multiple bosses. And as mentioned, I finished the game playing solo with a level 80 character, and assimilating your partners or when absorbing them makes you powerful in solo mode. While on the other hand, if you summon a partner, you can divert enemy attention effectively. Very useful for beginner players. And that's a lot of tips to give you the perfect start possible. But what if you want to know what is the right weapon type for you? This video will teach you everything you need to know, so click on it and I will catch you on the next one.